Alright, today we're going to start talking about graphing functions. So when we graph a function, we're going to make sure that it says a y equals function. Most of the ones we do today will be y equals functions already. When we graph that function, we're going to make a t-chart. The t-chart can look like this with just the x and y column. This is the way I prefer. Or you can make a much more expanded one where you have the x, the domain. You can write down your given equation and then you can write your x, y ordered pair. This is the way I'm going to stress and go ahead and do it. When you're not given a domain today, make sure you're just using -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. Otherwise, use the specified domain in the problem. You're going to calculate each of the y values once you've plugged in the x values, and then you'll graph those ordered pairs. Lastly, you'll just connect those dots and make a line or the function. There's a couple special functions we're going to look at, and one of them is the x squared function. The x squared function is a parabola, a u-shaped function. Or if it's a positive x squared, then it's a u-shape. If it's a negative x squared, it is a hill. There is one small typo I see on here, and that would be, these should not be here, these squared parts. I'm just talking about the function of an absolute value. Absolute values create v's. Anytime you have the absolute value of anything, it'll create a v. A positive absolute value out here in front will make a v, and an upside down one will make like a TP. Let's go ahead and do some examples. So we're going to run through some examples. We're going to graph the function using a table of values. So in this problem, I will go ahead and I'm going to pick, because it tells me my domain is -2, 0, and 1. We're going to go ahead and just use that. F of x is just another fancy word for y. So we're going to just take, we're going to plug in -2 for all the x values. So I have 3 times -2 plus 5. Please make sure and write these things out, otherwise you'll make negative errors. So -6 plus 5, -6 plus 5 is -1. So I have one ordered pair is -2, -1. Then I'm going to take and plug in 0. So I've got 3 times 0 plus 5. 3 times 0 is 0 plus 5. 0 plus 5 is 5. And I'll take my last value and plug it in. 3 times 1 plus 5. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 plus 5 is 8. So I have 3 ordered pairs. I'm going to go ahead and graph -2, -1. That's about right here. 0, 5. And 1, 8. Last thing I do is just connect those dots together, and you can see it makes a straight line. It wasn't an x squared function or an absolute value, so I knew it was going to make a straight line. Next example, I need to first set an equal. I need to make it say y equals. So I'm going to do that from the previous sections where we had to solve for the missing or the certain variable. So I'm going to solve for y. I want to get rid of the x part first. I'll subtract x off both sides. That gives me -3y equals, I always like to write the x part first, -x plus -6. I'll divide by -3 to get the y by itself. And I get y equals, this is a little funky looking, so what we want to think of it is -1 over -3. Well, -1 over -3 is just going to be a positive 1/3. So I have 1/3 x plus -6 divided by -2 is a positive 2. My t-chart then, I'm going to have -3, 0, 3, and 6. That's what they asked me to find in my domain. I will go ahead and plug in -3 first. So I've got 1/3 times -3 plus 2. Well, when I cross reduce here, I get -1 plus 2. -1 plus 2 is 1. Plug in 0. 1/3 times 0 plus 2. Well, that would be 0 plus 2. 2. Plug in 3. 1/3 times 3 plus 2. Those cancel. I get 1 plus 2, which is 3. There is a pattern forming here. I should get 4 here. 1/3 times 6. Cross reduce. I get 2 plus 2, which is 4. So I did a lot of fast notations there, so you might want to be careful. I will go ahead and graph -3, 1, 0, 2, 3, 3, and 6, 4. Connect your dots, and there's your graph.